We're recording here. Okay, so let's get into the interview. The art of the interview, the PowerPoint. So open it up and look at the first page. So I put this image in here because I wanted to remind people that when we talk about in context, it's not only about going into people's homes, but sometimes we're going to wherever people are to get the best information. So in this case, we are in a giant refrigerator at a meat distributor talking to the guy who keeps track of all the meat. And if you click on the next page, I'm in a supermarket talking to a woman about how she thinks about fresh food. And the bag that I'm holding has a camera in it, and I wish that I was looking at the woman and not the camera, but I managed to get in and out without getting caught or arrested, because it turns out most supermarkets don't like people in there with cameras, or any kind of retail environment really. When I do get caught, I just say I'm a student, and usually it works. So that's what you should do too. And then if you click on the third page here, you can see that project that I was talking to you guys about in Peru, where it's the 3 generations of the same family, the grandma, the mom, and the daughter. They had cooked us a whole dinner because it was rare for Americans to be at their home, so of course we ate it because that's the right thing to do when you're in someone's house. So if you go to the next page, your first goal really is to make people comfortable, and this is really important, obviously, because you're strangers and you're going into people's homes, and they're putting themselves in a really vulnerable position. So there's a few things you can do to put people at ease. The first thing is to remove hierarchy. So this might not apply as much to you guys, but it really applies to our clients when we bring them out on research, because oftentimes they're used to being the experts in things and in wearing suits and ties and carrying weird bags with their logos on it. And so we tell them to really dress like a normal person would hanging out at a house, and use the same kind of language, and really try and make these people feel like you're an equal. Obviously you have to thank them a lot, especially you guys, since the future of your senior year and portfolio are in their hands. No pressure. Third is set expectations. So before you start, sort of talk through what this experience is going to be like and feel like for them. Let them know it's going to be kind of a conversation, and there's no right or wrong answers, and this is their house, and if they get a phone call they can answer it, and if they have to go to the bathroom they can. So kind of lay down the fact that there's no real rules and this is a pretty casual thing. Next, you have to explain that you're naive, and I think this is going to be a real challenge for you guys, because you're probably talking to someone who you know or maybe you're friends with, and it's important in this project to kind of set the rules up front and just say, today I'm not your friend, you are a Gen Y subject, I am a researcher, I'm going to ask you questions that maybe I even know the answer to because I know you, and please answer them like you would if I was a stranger. So just kind of get that out of the way so you don't feel weird asking them, about stuff that you maybe already know if you're their roommate. And then finally start with the easy stuff. So ask them about their name and their age, and things that are easy for people to answer, just to kind of get things moving. Okay, so then I put in a page from the protocol that I attached last week that kind of goes through a little bit of a script that we wrote when we were interviewing people about health insurance. So you can kind of take cues from that. The second goal is to really ask open questions to give the people control. So what you're trying to do here is get unbiased information and encourage your respondents to tell you what maybe you don't even know to ask. And so to do this, you have to hand over some control to them. And the key to that is in asking open questions. So an open question starts with what or why or how or describe or tell me. And it usually has no bias. It's just asking something objectively. And the respondent usually thinks and reflects about it because it's not a straightforward question, usually touches on opinions or feelings, and it gives the respondent a chance to control the interview and take it where they want. On the other hand, a closed question or a leading question often starts with your opinion and looks for reinforcement. And so you can imagine, I think the best way to think about it is in a courtroom drama where there's a big difference between asking someone, were you at the pig the night of the October 6th, which means they're going to give you a yes or no answer. You're already putting your bias into it. Or whether you say, where were you the night of the 6th, and then they tell you a story about it. So this is a pretty straightforward thing, but I think you'll be surprised when you watch your own interview at how hard it is not to lead them in some way. I'm always surprised. Happens to the best of us. And then your third goal is to really get to the heart of it all. So, your respondent is going to give you an answer to your question, and oftentimes the first answer they give you is not going to be the deepest answer or really get to the root of why they're doing something. So it's really important that you ask these follow-up questions to get to their values or their beliefs. And so, of course, why is a pretty obvious way to start. Sometimes you might ask someone why a few times. Why do you say that, or why do you feel that way? If you say it in a nice way, it doesn't come across as annoying. And it causes people to really think about exactly why they feel that way, which probably they haven't thought about before. Another thing is to ask naive questions. So oftentimes when we're starting kind of a section in your protocol, you could ask someone to talk generally about something. What is breakfast? What is health? What is money? And those are kind of, you feel a little bit silly asking because there's always that exchange But it kind of gives a chance for your respondent to go in whatever direction they want to go in. And oftentimes, that becomes the baseline for the discussion. If you ask someone what money is and they say, it's the key to my existence, that's really different than if you ask someone what money is and they say it's evil. So automatically you're understanding how they feel about something and you're not biasing them with your questions. And then finally, asking follow-up questions. So in general, people don't like dead air. So if they're talking about something, telling you a story, and you kind of just be silent, they'll probably keep talking. Or if you repeat the last thing they say, if they say, I use that pan to make an omelet in the morning, and you say, an omelet? And they'll say, yeah, an omelet. So it's just a way to kind of get them to continue their thoughts in a non-obtrusive way. Also, I didn't write it down here, but I think another thing is just to be careful about how you're reacting to people. So you want to make the encouraging face. You want to make them feel like they're the most important thing in the world and you are hanging on every word. But you don't want to say, like 100 times because that's going to ruin your video. So you kind of have to be quiet and encouraging. So that's another thing that seems pretty easy, but you'll find that when you're in the interview, it's actually harder. Okay. Another way to get to the heart of it is to ask for a recent or memorable example. So if they say, I always do this before a party, then you could say, well, tell me about your last party. How did you prepare? So that kind of gets something that's pretty broad and gets them to go into details on exactly what they did, and that gives you a little bit more information about how they always do it. Or sometimes you catch them, like they say they always do it, and then you ask them, and they don't have a great answer for the last time, or they can't remember a last time, and then you know that maybe they don't do it as much as they're saying. And then finally, ask them to show you. So if someone's talking about an interaction or something that goes on around them, you can just ask them, well, can you show me how you log into this website? Or can you show me how you'd pack for a vacation? Or those kinds of things. Because, the reason why you're in context is to understand everything around them and exactly what they do. And so this is a good chance to observe. And when you do that, just kind of let them show you and be quiet so that you don't interrupt how they normally do it, and then ask the questions sort of when they're done. Okay, and then the last thing, so finish strong. So, if you've done everything we've talked about, if you've kind of laddered from really big values and beliefs down to the details of what you're interested in, and you're kind of done with all of the questions that you wanted to ask in an unbiased way, you can choose to be a little bit biased at the very end. You can just lay it all out and say, what I'm really interested in is how you think about health insurance. And I think, this can be successful or not. And you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt, because we know that in general, people can't describe something they don't know. And sometimes people, when you ask them these questions, they try and get all creative, and they contradict what they've said already. So I would trust the normal interview much more than this, but sometimes they'll tell you some attributes of the experience that maybe you didn't cover, and it's useful to just sort of lay it out on the line, or say, like, other people have said this, how do you feel about that? Or, in talking about all this stuff, it seems like what you're saying is this. Would you say is that how you feel? So it's okay to be a little bit unbiased at the very end when you're not at jeopardy of wrecking the open conversation that is the whole point of this. Okay, so the last page has an evaluation form, and you're going to be using this in some of the exercises that I've outlined in the Word document. So if somebody could print this out and make a bunch of them, that would be really helpful for the class. Okay, so in summary, you should remember that all of these little details are really the art of the interview. Last time we talked about the structure of the interview, but you can make it or break it in the way that you conduct it, and your posture and your tone, and some of these tools will help people feel really at ease and help you have a successful, unbiased interview that can lead to insights that lead to great ideas.